Welcome, everyone. Welcome to this first AMA session. Ashley, it's up to you to host.
Hey guys, what's up? Thank you for being here. We appreciate you all coming here today. We are going to be talking about a lot of things. We are here with Eric, which is so awesome because he's one of our co-founders. And he is here to talk about the history of Ledger. So we know what Ledger is, but we kind of want to dive in a little bit more and find out, how did this get started? What was your thought process? So we're just going to take some time today to talk to Eric and to ask him some questions. And guys, if you have questions, please go ahead and type them in the chat. We will be reading your questions, and at the end, we will answer them. So let's start. Eric, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. I'm at home. I'm confined like everyone, but I think it's important to stay home. And at Ledger, this is what we are doing, obviously.
This is it. We are confined, but we're here and we get to talk to you. So, can you tell us, how did Ledger start? So, who are the co-founders? How did you guys meet? Who had the first idea? If you could just dive in a little bit more there, that would be awesome.
Yes, of course. So I have been an entrepreneur all my life. I did a few startups in France and in Europe and in very various areas. Not only tech. I had a hotel. I did some, some wood cutting stuff, quite different stuff. So in 2013, I just had sold a price comparison engine, I was looking for the next story, the next project, and I stumbled upon Bitcoin. I was reading an article on TechCrunch, and I said, okay, what is Bitcoin? I'm seeing it about a long time, and I just wanted to understand. And long story short, I really became obsessed with that, and I said, okay, I have to spend the next years of my life doing something about Bitcoin, but I didn't know what to do exactly. So my idea was to do something horizontal, and I opened a Bitcoin center. Since I didn't know what to do, I said, okay, let's do everything. And with Thomas France, I opened this Bitcoin house. It was in 2014. There was no business model. The idea was just to be here and hoping we will be here at the right time, at the right place. And this is how I met with the other co-founders of Ledger. So first I met with Nicolas Bacca, who is the CTO of the company and the chief, let's say, scientist officer, the guy behind all the tech, real tech genius. And so he had his little company doing security for Bitcoin, the first version of the hardware wallet. It was very technical. And he was doing that with Olivier, Thomas, and Cédric Ménil, who was his two co-founders and became eventually co-founder of Ledger. So it was the first version of the hardware wallet. It was extremely, let's say, technical and impossible to use. But by talking with Nicolas, for me, it was clear that the tech was huge. And there was another company, Chronocoin. What they were doing was to sell Bitcoin through postal services. It was quite an adventure at the time. And basically, they wanted to have a low to diminish all the scams and all the fake credit cards and everything when people were buying Bitcoin, to have as little fraud as possible by doing face-to-face ID check using UPS and postal services. So that's why they were sending the Bitcoin by the postal services. But what they were really sending was the private keys. And so they needed a secure way to send the private keys. So it was the company from Joël Pobeda, was working with David Ballon and Vanessa Rabesandratana, so who are the other co-founders of Ledger. And they started to work with the company from Nicolas Bacca, whose name was BT Chip. It was first hardware wallet. They started to build something to be able to send the Bitcoins through the postal services with a better interface. they worked together at a hackathon at La Maison du Bitcoin, the Bitcoin Center in Paris. And this is how basically we all met, and we saw that we were sharing the same vision, that we had a unique chance using smart card technology, which is a French technology, to build security devices for Bitcoin and eventually all form of crypto later. And so very quickly, we decided to merge the three startups. That's why Ledger is the result of the merge of three different companies. That's why we are so many co-founders. We are 8. It was end of 2014, and this is how Ledger is born, by putting together all the founders and the know-how and the tech from three different companies.
That's awesome. And so for you guys, was it more of one conversation that you guys sort of had an aha moment and you were like, okay, we need to do this? Or was it sort of a series of conversations that you broke down and then you finally came to your decision?
Oh, it was more like a aha moment. Very clearly, immediately we understood that we were in a unique position to provide with all these security devices. Security using smart cards is something that exists for a long time in France, for decades. And we have all this industry that has been developing secure hardware. And it was clear that Bitcoin with private keys was a very good example of the use case of a smart card to be able to have the secure hardware to protect a very critical piece of information. And we knew that not only crypto, Bitcoin will become huge. That was something that from the beginning we were convinced, but also we knew that being French, using this technology, for once we will have a big advantage on the US market, for instance, where the smart card industry is almost non-existing. And so for us, it was clear that we had a big opportunity to create a new technological giant in France in the industry of crypto.
Wow, that's amazing. And what were your next steps? Did you guys sort of have to keep it a secret and you sort of developed it? You know, maybe was it sort of like at someone's house, or how did you guys keep that together? Because obviously it was really, really important, and it wasn't something that we had seen. So how did you guys keep that?
Well, in fact, we didn't have to keep all the ID and everything a secret, because all the technological stack that we used in the hardware wallet was based on smart cards, and it's a very specific, complex industry where you cannot really easily duplicate the technological stack, such as the one that Nicolas did. So we were quite confident that we could speak about everything, about the idea, about the concept. Anyway, we were not the first to do the hardware wallet. It was Trezor, who was on the market already. So it was not, let's say, a novelty on the principles, but it was more like groundbreaking on the level of security that we were providing. But since these technologies that we had was already very advanced and very complex and quite difficult to be able to deal with secure element with smart cards, then we were able to, let's say, blast the news and the existence of the product, and we started to work at the Bitcoin house. We were using all this building to do the first years of Ledger. We were 20 in total because we each had employees that we merged together. And so we started. It was quite a slow start, but it gave us the time to really build all the right foundations for the future.
Wow, that is so great. That's really awesome. And how did you finance the project? How were you able to launch it? Can you explain us the next steps?
Yes, of course. So when we started Ledger, since we merged the three companies, and my company had some money because it was the result of the sale of a previous startup. So I had some cash runway. So we were able to start to work with quite a good advance in cash, but of course it was not enough for what we wanted to build. So immediately after joining forces, we started to look for money, to raise some money. And it was not easy at the time because Bitcoin was really unknown and the image of Bitcoin was very poor. And also we were in hardware, and venture capitalists, they don't like really much hardware because it has a huge cost basis and it doesn't scale easily. So it was really not easy. But since we had a very good team with very great technical guys, we managed first to convince a few entrepreneurs. One is Pascal Gauthier, who is now the CEO of the company. But initially we came to Ledger as a business angel and as a board member. So he had a big experience of running large company with Criteo. And so he was very quickly convinced by the potential of the tech. And so he invested. And by attaching his name to the project, we were able to convince someone else, Frédéric Potter, who is a known businessman in France who has done a lot of hardware engineering with very big successes. So he came as well to the board as a board member, and with all this pedigree, all these people, we were finally able to convince a VC, Xange, a French VC, basically not because they believed in Bitcoin or hardware. They really, at the time, it was impossible for them to even understand what we were really doing. But they said, okay, this is a great team. Whatever they do, it was going to be good. So we are betting on the team. And that's why we managed to raise a first round of 1.2 million euro, which secured the first years of the company.
Wow. That is so cool. What a great story. That is so awesome. And how and why did you believe in Bitcoin so early? What was about it that attracted you, that made you think, okay, this is the next best thing?
Well, when I started to look at Bitcoin, initially I didn't understand anything. I was thinking, what is this internet magic money scam, or I say how it works, and so I wanted to understand, and I started to read everything I could on Bitcoin, the white paper, of course, but then also all the wiki I could find, and the more I read, the less I felt I understood about money, about the technology, about everything, and it took me maybe 1 week, 2 weeks, or 3 weeks, I don't remember exactly, to really comprehend and grasp really the difference that Bitcoin and the technology of blockchain was bringing to the society by really changing the notion of money, of trust. And when I finally understood that, I was like struck by lightning, and I said, okay, that's really a big change. I remember I made my first company in '96 when it was the arrival of internet in France and in Europe. And I saw how internet changed the way that people manage information and exchange information. And for me, Bitcoin was the same, but for value and trust. And so it was clear for me that it would be some kind of fourth industrial revolution, and that I had to be there. So yeah, I was really convinced by the potential of Bitcoin and the blockchain technology quite early. And that's why I say, okay, I have to stop everything I do. I have to go into this direction. And whatever I do, I don't know yet, but I'm going to do it.
But you have to go. That's great. And so obviously you dove right in, and then I guess everyone else sort of became how you were, and we all were like, okay, what is this? So then in 2017, Bitcoin just peaked, and it was at its highest, and we saw this massive global change. How did you react to that? What was your feelings? What were your emotions?
Well, it was really amazing at the time. Whoever has really lived these times of craziness can remember them fondly. What happened for us is that before the price really started to go big, so it was more like in April, in May of 2017, we started really to see a change in the sales of the company. Until then, the sales were quite small, like a few thousand of euros per month, maybe 10,000, 20,000 if it was a good month. So it was quite low, but we said, okay, we need time, for the market to expand, and so it gave us the time also to build the brand of Ledger in the earliest community. So it was quite instrumental for really when the industry really became to scale. The fact that Ledger was known really helped to scale with it. But we really saw the sales to try to start to peak. Ethereum was also starting to gain some momentum. We were one of the first to integrate Ethereum in Ledger, and then XRP, Ripple. And with the boom of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Ripple, we were really the go-to product. And pretty soon it was madness. Everyone on earth wanted to buy our devices. There was some tension in the stock. It was difficult to find. And people really started to become crazy, ordering, asking. So we were out of stocks and we had to do pre-orders. And we really saw the company scaling at an extremely high growth rate. I have discussed with many VCs in Europe and also in the US, and they all say that they never saw such a quick growth. It was really like vertical takeoff.
Right.
So it has been maybe 6 months where everything was crazy. The orders was crazy. We had to hire people. We have to manage all the cash flow. We had to manage the hardware engineering. We had to scale very quickly in China because we had no choice. That if we wanted to produce hundreds of thousands of millions of units, we had to go in China. So this is what we did. And also we were very afraid by this growth, because when you have too much growth, it can really kill your company.
Of course.
So we had to be very careful not to become crazy ourselves with what was happening. But it has been an intense 2017 years where the Ledger really changed from a startup to really a scale up, and then after a big scale up. And it has been really amazing. I think it's the dream of any entrepreneur to see its product, its company exploding like that. So I'm very grateful to have been able to live that. I think we have good times in the future to see, but it will never compare to this craziness that we have seen at Ledger at this time, because we were not prepared. Now we are prepared, so it's going to be different for the next bull run. But at the time, it was really crazy, and that's really amazing times.
Wow. And that was actually my next question was, were you guys at all prepared for this? Was it just sort of you woke up and you're like, okay, wait, what's going on? Were you sort of in the know that it would come? Did anybody predict it? I mean, what were you guys talking about back then?
Well, at the beginning of the year, I kind of thought that it will become to become quite big. So in a way, we were not like surprised that it started to scale, but we were very surprised by the scale of it. I mean, I would never have thought that it would become as crazy. So regarding that, we were not prepared. In fact, at many levels, we weren't prepared in production, in customer support, in just management of all the administrative issues that comes when we have to sell that much. So we were taken aback by the strength of the scale of the market.
Right.
But we were not surprised by the fact that we were seeing this bull run, because we had seen Ethereum before. It was really opening new horizons. There was a big fail of the DAO, one of the first Ethereum projects, but we understood that it will not be the end of all that. It was just a beginning. So we were more or less bracing for a small impact in 2017. But what happened, no one could have predicted. So that's, in fact, on many aspects, we were not prepared. And I guess we did a good job at maintaining the company, not dying with all that happened.
Right.
And to scale to hire 100 people in 6 months. So yeah, it has been amazing, but very tiring. It has taken a toll on many people, staff, share, and co-founders. But it was really great.
That's awesome. And congratulations to you again, because you honestly have changed the world, and you and the team have, no, but it's true. And you and the team have come together and built something that's awesome. And now we just sort of want to see, okay, so the peak happened and boom, you're hit with this massive request of, we want Ledger, we want it. So how have the products since then evolved?
Yeah, we started by a very small chip, which was the HW1 for hardware wallet 1. There wasn't any screen, any button, and it was very small. So you had to put it on your USB port, and it was quite, it was a good idea, but it was very simple. Then we evolved to the Ledger Nano, which was basically the same with a bigger packaging. At least you could find it in your pocket. And then the real revolution for us was when we went to the Nano S. S is for screen, which really allowed to manage all the security aspects of managing private keys, like generating the seed, doing a backup or restore directly on device. And also this device, we are now at the 8th revision of the Nano S regarding the hardware engineering and everything. And now we are very proud of this product because it's very sturdy, it doesn't break. I mean, when you do millions of it, of course, some will break at some point, but it's very resistant, it works well. So we have really done a very good product with that. And then we evolved to the Nano X, which basically had all what was needed for the usage with mobility, because with more and more adoption of crypto and evolution of smartphones, at some point we really want to do everything that is crypto related using your hardware wallet and not having to plug it because it might be quite clunky. So using Bluetooth, it really opened a lot of use cases. And also it was the opportunity to have more memory, to have more apps, to have more powerful secure elements. We also had developed in the same time of the Nano S, the Ledger Blue, that not many people know or have, because we were able to manufacture only a few thousands. And when in 2017 it was the craze about hardware wallets, we had to focus on the Nano S, and it really delayed and derailed what we wanted to do with the Ledger Blue, because basically we had to focus on only one thing. And now the Blue, which basically is a hardware wallet with a big screen, a touch screen. So from the UX perspective, it is much easier to use, but it is much bigger. Now we are using it. We are using this design only with the Ledger Vault for our professional services. And now regarding the future of hardware wallets, we will always need hardware wallets. Even if we see more and more, let's say, security coming to the smartphones, to see some kind of integration of hardware wallet in the smartphones, to have secure element inside the smartphones, etc. We will always need to have different devices for security reasons, or just people will not want to have their private keys in the smartphone, even if they think that it's secure, because at least they can have a hardware wallet and stay in the safe and not having it always with them. But one thing is for sure is, if we think about adoption of crypto with hundreds of millions or billions of users, they are not going to buy each hardware wallet. So it will go through the evolution of the smartphones, and we are going to see the virtualization of hardware wallet inside smartphones, and that's the technologies that we have developed. We have already demonstrated it. The only thing is it takes more time that we think to come to that. The technology is not ready yet to make sure that we have the level of security that we want, but we are going to go there. And meanwhile, we think that with the S and the X, we really have good pieces of hardware engineering. So what we are focusing on now is more the Ledger Live and all the interfaces that we have to be able to address more use cases, to have decentralized finance where your hardware wallet is at the center of the securing of all your assets, and through the Ledger Live on mobile or on desktop, you can really do whatever you want, staking, buy, sell, really managing all your crypto assets very securely. Because if you think about decentralized finance, it puts to you, the endpoints, all the responsibility of security. You are not giving everything to a third-party exchange and pray that they are going to do well with your assets. You are managing them yourself. So the hardware wallet is really something that you need. It's not just to hodl, to keep it in a safe and then for the years to come, but really for a day-to-day use of all what decentralized finance will have to offer you. So we are really doing a lot of investments and efforts to have the maximum level of coin integration, protocol integration, and interfaces to be able to manage everything that decentralized crypto finance has to offer.
That's awesome. And now we want to sort of switch over and talk about your production site that you created in Vierzon. So could you just sort of explain to everyone, how did you come up with this idea, and then how you implemented it and how you just took it off?
When we merged the three companies, I talked about the history of Ledger at the beginning of the broadcast. One company was Chronocoin. This company was sending Bitcoins through postal services, was located in Vierzon, which is in the center of France, a small town which is in the center of France. And I knew this town because when I came from this region, basically, after I lived to Paris, and I had forgotten about Vierzon. But then when I saw them, I said, wow, that's so funny. I know the city. And they had some offices there. And when we thought about all production aspect and logistics and everything, well, it was obvious that we were doing that in Vierzon, which was much more a logistic hub than in Paris, where square meter is very expensive. And so initially we were doing everything in Vierzon. And at some point we had to go to China, as I was explaining, because we had to scale very quickly and only China can do that. But after, when we had everything under control again, we really decided to take back in our own hands all matters related to production. We didn't want to be just tied to another country. And so it's about relocalization of all the capacity to do production. And so we invested in Vierzon into a large building to do all the production and also all the logistics, basically all the facilities that we need to build and manage our hardware wallets. And it was like 2 years ago that we decided that, and it took quite a time to do it. And at the time, we also had to convince our shareholders to do that, because if you think about it now, all the startups, it's about to be fabless, it's about to do everything in China. And what we see now also, with the crisis that we are living, is that all the countries are saying, okay, we have to stop this globalization of everything. We have to take back what is important. And I think we are going to see more and more efforts to have, again, in France and in all countries, all the industry and all the relocalization of production and everything. So all companies or industries are much more independent. So this movement, that this idea that we wanted to be basically independent and more resilient started 2 years ago, and now that we see that that's something that now is helping us, because we can continue to do the production, the logistics. We are fully integrated, and that's why Ledger can continue to work even during this crisis. So again, resilience is important, but resilience in something that you create for the future is something that you prepare. And we are quite happy about being in Vierzon. And if you have a Ledger box, you can see that at some point it was, at the beginning, we were putting Paris, Vierzon, San Francisco, because we had an office in San Francisco as well. And it's some kind, you know, a way to tell that we are really love this small city of Vierzon. I guess it didn't make any sense for, you know, Americans, or say, okay, is it Verizon, you know? But it was more like an internal joke, and we are quite proud of being in Vierzon.
That's awesome. That's so cool. And obviously, since you're one of the co-founders, and so you know this company, what makes Ledger such a unique company?
It's clearly the fact that it's composed of very good talents, and like many companies, I mean, every CEO founder will tell you that their company is made of amazing people. I think, of course, it's true with Ledger. But what it makes different maybe is the fact that we really built everything on a very specific technology. The smart card technology is something that is some kind of French exception, because if you want to learn about that and go in the university, it's only in France that you will find the right courses, and only in France that you will find after the right industry where you can perfect your craft in the smart card industry. And that's really something that made the difference for Ledger, because we really had a technology that was advanced and everything, but also very hard to duplicate. Because basically, if you wanted to do the same thing, you had to have our engineers, you had to have Nicolas Bacca, our founder, our co-founder, and that is not something that you can just invent. And so it was a big advantage, competitive advantage for the company. And this helped us tremendously when we had to raise funds or to develop the company, is that we knew and we know that it's not easy to do a copy-paste of Ledger. And all the competition that we have in hardware wallets and everything, they are not really using secure hardware. So there are big debates about secure hardware or not secure hardware with open source, etc. It's I'm not saying that one is fundamentally better than the other, even if, of course, I think it is. But we are really in a unique position on the market to provide really secure hardware which has the right guarantee that even if someone puts your hands on your device, they cannot extract the secret. So I believe that this combination of good people and good technology made the success of Ledger and made it a unique company.
That's awesome. My next question, I'm going to ask you, so the whole time, do you have one story or just one moment where you were like, okay, what? Or it was something that just stood out, or something that made you laugh, or any sort of significant stories? That would be awesome to hear.
Yes, I think there are a few, but one that really captured the craziness that we had in 2017, when everyone wanted to put their hand on the Nano X, because they wanted to secure their crypto, because the price were rocketing. So everyone was really in total panic. It was abrupt chaos. We had to shut down our phone lines, to change the address, to hide ourselves, because otherwise people were coming and asking for. It's a little bit now people who are producing masks. Everyone wants masks, so I think it's more or less the same that what had happened to us at the time. And so I remember one day there is a guy who managed to find the door of the company, and he just so he came and he said, "Okay, I'm from New York. I'm a trainee into a big let's say financial firms, and my bosses sent me by the first plane to Paris to come here, to come back with 10 Nano S.
No.
Please, otherwise I'm going to get fired. So it was crazy enough that people in New York just sent a guy with a plane, commercial flight, to come to Paris, to come to us, and just doing this to buy devices, to buy hardware wallets. And unfortunately, we were not able to sell it to him because we were really out of stock.
Wow.
So the guy, I don't know the end of the story, but he had to come back to New York empty-handed. So it's not a story that ends well, I guess, but it's a good illustration of the craziness that we were living at the time.
It is. What a great story. That's so funny. And last but not least, we just want to know, what are the next steps for Ledger?
So, well, it is now a very challenging times, but I would say that we are quite lucky. Ledger is quite lucky because the crisis is showing that Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies and decentralization is something important. And we have seen that the need for the interest for hardware wallets and security and crypto in the last weeks has had a lot of growth, not crazy growth like before, but we have seen more and more interest, and so more and more sales. So Ledger is doing quite well in this time of crisis. There are businesses for which it's very hard, but in the crypto industry, I think generally everyone is doing good. So it's good news for Ledger and the industry. And what we are really doing for, let's say, the next months and years to come in the short to medium term is really to evolve our infrastructure, our offers, our products, to really a great place to manage all your crypto. As I was saying with the Ledger Live, I think that we have been a very hardware-focused company in the last years. Now we are really focusing on the software to make sure that we can bring the best possible experience when managing crypto assets. So this is where you are going to see the most number of let's say news and innovation and new features. Is going to be in the apps that you can have on your hardware wallet, like new coin integration, new protocols, and also new features that you can have on the Ledger Live, because we really want to make sure that Ledger is the one-stop shop to be able to manage all your crypto everywhere you want and the way you want, by being you with your hardware device at the center of this crypto equation. So that's really the next focus for Ledger for the months and year to come.
That's awesome. Thank you, Eric, so much. And now we are going to go to the chat, and I'm going to ask you a few questions from the chat. So the first question is, what is your reach in the USA? I am French, living in the US, and I am wondering how Ledger does in this market.
So the US has always been our biggest market. Ledger does, generally speaking, Ledger does 98% of exports. It means that France is only 2% of our sales. So we have sales in 165 countries. So Ledger is really global. And the US at some point was 1/3 of our markets because there is a very strong crypto industry there, a lot of users. And I will also say that in the last weeks, I was telling that there was a lot of, let's say, requests and interest for crypto, and a lot of this new interest come from the US. So we have a very strong presence in the US. With some retailers, and so Amazon also, and also selling directly. But the US is clearly the biggest market that we have. It's roughly 1/3, North America, 1/3 Europe, and 1/3 Asia. So we are quite distributed, but the US clearly are the biggest market for us.
Great. We have a question from Walt22. He asks, What happens if the Ledger company goes out of business? Who keeps the servers running? Will Ledger Live still work?
So from day one, we have done everything to make sure that even if Ledger goes out of business, or if we all die, all the founders, they die in some kind of horrendous car crash or train wreck or whatever, that the assets of our customers are not at risk. That for us was very important because otherwise the responsibility is huge, and also we come in some kind of regulation. We wanted to make sure that the decentralized model of Ledger is not and cannot be regulated. It means that Ledger doesn't have any access or anything to do with the assets of their customers. However, if Ledger dies, even though you can use your Ledger device by connecting it to a third-party solution like Electrum or other wallets, the Ledger Live probably will not work. It may work the time that everything goes down and that we plug off the servers, but Ledger Live is a centralized software. If Ledger dies, the Ledger Live will die with it, probably, maybe surely, but a question of time. And at some point, you will not be able to use your Ledger Nano because it will die as well in a few years and you will not be able to replace it. But you can use after a third party, as long as your Nano S or X is working, you can use it also with my crypto, my Ether wallet, Electrum. But you always have your 24 words, which is the key to make sure that you are financially independent and not dependent of Ledger. We are exploring the fact that we can connect through the Ledger Live servers and blockchain explorers that will not be the one from Ledgers. So that's one of the solutions that we can do to extend the reach of the independence of Ledger. So that's something which is on our roadmap. And once we will achieve that, then we will give the possibility for our users to be completely independent from Ledger, which is something that we aim for. But it's still going to take some time because we have so many priorities that first we prefer to have new features and new coin integration rather than full independence, but that's something that we are keeping in our objectives.
Okay, awesome. The next question someone asked, how can I make sure my Nano X is original and not hacked?
Well, everything comes back to the trust that you can have on the secure elements. Basically, what we do is when you connect your Nano X to the Ledger Live through Bluetooth or USB, doesn't matter, there is what we call a cryptographical challenge. Basically, the client, the Ledger Live, is asking the hardware wallet to sign a challenge, to sign something with the root key from Ledger. And the root key from Ledger, basically a private key, a certificate, is inside the secure element. And so if you do this challenge and you have this challenge signed by the root key from Ledger, then you know it's an original Ledger devices, because the certificate is inside the secure chip that is distributed with all our products. And since we are using highly secure chips, the smart cards, the smart chips, the secure elements, then it's not possible to extract this information. And so it's not possible to replicate or to duplicate, extract the root key from Ledger. And so it's not possible to do fake Ledger devices. And each time that you connect for the first time your device, or any time that you want to do it, you can have this genuine check, which proves that you have a real device from Ledger.
Amazing. Next question is, could you compare Ledger products to its competition?
Well, the big difference is the fact that we are again, using secure elements, and that the competition is using regular chips. After, there is the form factors and everything, and that's not really important. What is important is the hardware base. You have two kinds of microprocessors or microcontrollers in the wild. You have the one that you use for security, such as the one that you will find in chip and pin credit cards or passports or SIM cards, which have been designed to keep secure critical information. And then you have all the microprocessors that you can find in toasters, remote control, drones, or play games, toys, any kind of electrical, let's say, devices, which has not been done for security. And so you can do a hardware wallet with a toaster or the technology that you can find in a toaster. But the difficulty is that if someone put their hand on the device, if someone steals your device, then with the right equipment, and it's not an equipment that is very difficult to find or to do, you can extract the 24 words in a matter of minutes, or you can crack the PIN code. So the difference between Ledger and the competition is that Ledger is offering a higher level of hardware, physical security, and that's really what the technology of Ledger can bring as a difference. Mm-hmm. After you have all the features, but I'm not going to go into that. I would say that's the main difference.
Okay, and we have two more questions for you. The first one is, what does Ledger need to do to penetrate the Asian market?
So it's a good question. So Asian market is usually quite mobile, and that's one of the reasons that we did the Nano X, to be able to work with the Asian market, because if you have only a solution that works with a laptop or USB cable, it's not going to work in Asia, as most of the people they are used to work on smartphones. But what we lack is that we still have to do is really the localization, because everything is in English. We need to have it in Chinese or Japanese or Korean, and that is on the roadmap for a long time, especially on the hardware. But it's quite complex, and we never really put that as an absolute priority, because we have so many things to do. We have so many requests, and we prefer to prioritize the coin integration and everything, as I was saying before. But yeah, to be able to be better on the Asian market, we have to do all this localization, and also maybe to have more local presences through distributors and resellers to do all the customer support directly in Chinese or other languages, because it's quite important, and usually they don't really speak English. So that's a big barrier that we have. But anyway, that's for the B2C, the individual market. For the professional B2B market, we are quite strong on the Asian market. We have offices in Hong Kong, soon in Singapore. So we have quite a strong presence there, but it's much more for like financial institution and the Ledger Vault.
Awesome. There is a question for Eric. How can we invest in Ledger as a personal investor? Is it even possible?
No, as of today, unfortunately, it's not possible. I hope that one day we will be able to do what I call a crypto IPO, the capacity of really open the capital with the emission of new shares that we can distribute as a token, so some kind of tokenization of the shares of Ledger, and be able to sell them on any kind of crypto market. That's really something I want to do for years, and that's, I think, one of the ultimate goal of Ledger regarding its capital and exit strategy in a way. But I'm not sure when it's going to be feasible, because from the regulation point of view, it's the same as doing an IPO. And so it's very controlled. And then after the tokenization of shares, it still has its infancy. But one day I hope that I will be able to answer this question by, yeah, it's easy, just go on Kraken or Binance and buy Ledger shares. But that's I guess we have to wait a few years before
we'll
that.
get there soon. Another quick question. Are ledgers sold on Amazon, or should we always purchase them from France?
So they are sold on Amazon. We have our brand Ledger on Amazon, US, Canada, and other countries. And since we are using this attestation mechanism, the genuine check, you can buy on Amazon. You don't have to buy directly from France to be sure that it's a real one, because you cannot change, you cannot intercept the device and change the chip inside to do whatever, because you will always have this genuine check. That's why our devices do not have anti-tampering system. That for us it is security theater, because we know that it's not possible to really change the hardware architecture of the Nano X. So you can buy on Amazon, you can buy also from other distributors, resellers. It's okay. You will always be sure that you have a genuine Ledger devices by connecting it on the Ledger Live.
Awesome. We're gonna do one more question, guys. There's so many.
Right.
There's so many questions. It's great though. This one says, let's see. The sun. This one says, "Hi Eric, how are you? Is it possible to add BNB tokens, Binance tokens on Ledger software?"
I think at the point, I'm not sure about on which blockchain are the BNB tokens. Well, I'm not able to answer this question because I will not be 100% sure of the answer. We will have to ask the coin integration team for a proper technical answer. I think that it's not possible at the moment, but since everything is moving very fast and I don't have the latest information regarding this integration and support, I prefer to reserve my answers to the people who know the best.
Okay, great. That was it. Thank you so much, Eric. And guys, thank you so much for watching. We know that you guys have so many questions, but tune in next week because we are going to be talking about Ledger Live. So there you'll be able to ask all your questions about coin integration,
Exactly.
What's going on. All of those questions will be next week, April 22nd at 5 p.m. So we really appreciate you guys coming here today. Eric, thank you so much. What a great story. It's been awesome to hear about it. And we wish you all the best, Eric. Thank you.
Thank you all for listening.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.